Welcome to the 77th edition of the Pro Wrestling Zone. I am Tiger Height.
And I'm your brand new, majestic champion of the world of peanut gallery.
Just assume when a New Japan show happens, Peanut Gallery, for some reason, always clean sweeps me. Every time.
Yeah, it was a clean sweep. It was very much a clean sweep. If you've been following our Instagram,
yes.
Night 1 was the only night in which we had differences, and I clean swept it.
Yes. So, let's get into some news. There aren't a lot of things that were said, but there are deeper discussions within it.
Okay.
Let's start with some bad news, obviously. That Josephus, or the question mark Hudson, passed away,
Yes.
2 days ago at 40,
like
49 or whatever?
Yeah.
The medical issue is unknown, but they did say that it was not COVID related whatsoever.
Right.
So whatever it is, it came out of nowhere.
Right.
And at this point, the only people that are signed with the NWA are their champions. Mm-hmm. And what you need to think at this point is, what is the future of this company?
They are starting television tapings next month.
So apparently they're starting television tapings next month.
For Power.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Well, they took out all of the previous content on their YouTube channel, so we kind of assumed that they were going to be gonzo. But I guess maybe
starting content again.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess they have
Yep.
Well, I guess they have AEW guys and stuff. I wouldn't be surprised to.
They're going to incorporate a lot of AEW, a lot of Impact people, but they're going to.
Oh, they are. Okay.
Yeah.
They're signing a bunch of new young talent. Let's see some fresh blood in there.
Exactly.
All right. Well, that's exciting. Great. Thank Christ.
Yep.
I love NWA.
I just saw that today, actually.
Oh, great. Mm-hmm. Awesome. So, we'll talk about Kelly Klein here in a minute, but let's talk about Riddle.
Okay.
So, the Undertaker was on the Joe Rogan Experience a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
And he made a statement that the wrestlers currently are soft as a part of, who they are. Mm-hmm. Undertaker is wrong in the contextual thing of when he started in the business.
Right.
And Riddle took offense to it, stating that they are not soft, they're smarter. In a way, I agree with him, but I think he's kind of being a little condescending about it. Mm-hmm. And he's like, all they want to do is play N64. Now, this is something that Undertaker said. When I was in the locker room, this is paraphrasing, I don't have the direct quote, but instead of the wrestlers, doing whatever, they're playing their N64. Now, the Undertaker grew up in such a different generation, and at this point, the people who played N64, our generation, that's who's wrestling now.
Right.
And video games, just as an off, like comic books, video games, and all that, they're mainstream.
Right.
So I agree with the Undertaker to a point that they don't look like, the wrestlers of old, but I wouldn't say that they're soft.
No.
It's so hard to say that. Well, does that mean that a person like Bruno Sammartino or George Hackenschmidt were you soft compared to him?
Right.
Compared to them? Riddle took a shot at Undertaker. And he said, oh my God, you playing your N64. Riddle is somewhat disrespectful in his thing about The Undertaker. I understand where he's coming from.
Of course.
I understand where he's coming from with Riddle.
Old people expect respect to be given to them, but, respect is earned.
Well, Undertaker earned the respect, and other than somebody like Jim Cornette, who has not earned any kind of fucking respect.
Who?
Who is a total ass clown and continues to bash AEW, even
a total tool.
Right, even in bashing WWE, even though they're making record profits, they have more viewers and all of this stuff.
Such a tool.
Right. So whatever, it's like who the fuck cares?
Yeah.
Undertaker's comments, I think, were more justified than Jim Cornette's, because Jim Cornette is not telling them why he's mad at the industry. It's
he's just an angry, bitter old man.
Right. Undertaker actually at least has some kind of experience, but I think he needs to understand that Number one, it's such a generational thing. He started in the mid '80s wrestling.
Right.
Now go to like Japan, and what the locker room looks like might be different.
Exactly.
But it could be very similar because video game has been mainstream with them for the past 30 years.
Right.
And a lot of the wrestlers now, they've been involved with animes. They have their own video games. It's been very encultured.
Right.
So it could be the same, but just our generation grew up on video games.
Right.
And, obviously the context of what, with like sports regulations, it's so much different.
Yeah.
So they have to be careful. Anyway, that's my rant about it. Maybe we'll kind of break that down in a later episode more. Bobby Stevenson, huge top amateur wrestler in the NCAA scene the last couple of years, has reported to the Performance Center in their new class of recruits.
This was the largest class of recruits, I think, ever.
Oh, yeah.
This is when other notable talents are LA Knight, as you would probably
know. LA Knight.
Who's formerly known as Eli Drake.
Yep, Bailey Stevens, William Regal's son, Taya Valkyrie. Taya Valkyrie. There are a ton of indie stars. There are a ton of top-level prospects in different sports that were reported to the Performance Center.
Yeah.
Big class. I'm really excited. I kind of wish I put that on my notes, but I didn't.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Paul White.
Okay.
The Big Show has signed a long-term deal with AEW.
Yep.
To what I am aware of, he is going to be a pseudo-trainer. He's going to be a commentator.
Well, not a pseudo. He's going to be a part-time trainer. He's going to be a commentator for AEW's new show, AEW Dark. What is it? AEW Dark.
I can't remember. I know what it is. Yeah.
Reloaded or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. This is going to be their new show.
And he is also going to be a part-time wrestler. And guess who else is coming to AEW that they want to do a match with?
Right, Shaquille O'Neal.
Shaquille O'Neal versus Big Show. Yep.
You good, mate?
Yep, that might happen.
But yes, Big Show signed. This was a shocker to everybody. I just saw it on my feed, and I almost had to do a double take because it's really funny. Big Show looks a lot like a male parental unit. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, oh, dad signed with AEW. I'm like, oh, that's Big Show. That's kind of cool.
All white and all elite, baby.
Yeah. So it's super cool. I'm really excited.
Yeah. Also, this wasn't in the notes, unfortunately.
Of course not, because I was really lazy with notes this time.
Really lazy with it.
Shut up.
But Pro Wrestling Observer newsletter has released their awards for this past year in 2020.
And obviously, a lot of people are mad that AEW pretty much dominated the majority of the positive categories. Here's my thing. And they're like, oh my God, he paid off. So number one, obviously 2020 was such an off year.
Right, it was. And Dave Meltzer, it's his opinion.
Right. It's an opinion piece. Right.
I'm going to agree with about 90% of what
right. There were some that I was like kind of weirded out about, but
there were.
Now keep in mind, people, that pretty much for half of the year in 2020, not a lot of companies were working, including New Japan.
Right.
And New Japan was generally the top competition to AEW's product. And now since they're running full shows and doing all of this again, I guarantee you 2021, we're going to see a lot of Kota fucking Ibushi at this point.
God, yes.
Which we'll talk about here in a bit. But it is opinion. Like, we need to calm down.
Right. His word is not gospel to the true wrestling fans.
Right. And people are just like, oh my God, it's all of this and all of that. And it's like, okay, well, number one,
this
it's
is
so
just one man's opinion.
Right.
Now, granted, he has a little bit more experience in watching the product, so maybe he has a little more clout in saying what his opinion is, and people might listen to it a little bit more because of who he is, but it's still just his fucking opinion.
Right. Don't take
make
it.
Your own opinions. If you really want to, why don't you make your own wrestling newsletter? Tell me how many matches you've seen.
Exactly. What are your credentials? We're just two guys bitching on the internet, but at the very least, I mean, we, for some odd reason, we do have an audience, and we thank you for watching. But seriously, it's like, okay, we have an opinion on who was match of the year and who was this and who was that.
You heard about it, so go back to episode number 60. No, what episode?
It was like 68 or something like that. It was not too long ago.
Because remember, episode 69, that was the worst.
Right, yeah, no, 68, 69 was the worst and the best, and I think Omega and Paige was not our match of the year. Omega was our wrestler of the year. It's like a lot of it was very similar, but there were a lot of differences with ours, and once again, and we've gotten attacked by, it's like, how can you say this? Because that's our opinion.
Right, it's our opinion.
Right. Let's chill out for 3 seconds.
Right.
Anyway, let's talk about Kelly Klein.
Okay.
So obviously she was released by Ring of Honor due to the Joey Mercury fiasco and supporting him. She is currently suing Ring of Honor and Sinclair Broadcasting for employment discrimination. Klein filed a 28-page lawsuit against Ring of Honor and Sinclair on Wednesday, February 25th. According to Heel by Nature, who have an okayish reputation for putting this in, but I did do some further dive in, and this has been confirmed. Okay. Listing the parties in the lawsuit are the general manager Greg Gillard. Okay. Or Ginnard or whatever. Senior producer and creative director and ROH Dojo main trainer Delirious or Hunter Johnson. Okay. ROH COO and vice president of training and development Joe Koff. Okay. And current Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions Jay Lethal or Jamar Shipman, who is involved in this lawsuit. Okay. Klein alleges that she was terminated from a Ring of Honor contract on December 31st, 2019 because of, quote, her complaints regarding the pay for WHO, which is, I think that is, whatever. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think that was for Women of Honor, but for some reason it put in WHO. I think my spell check did that. For Women of Honor. Yeah, Women of Honor's female wrestlers. Right. The lack of safety and medical protocols after plaintiff suffered a concussion in October of 2019, which we actually did talk about. Yeah. And sexual harassment at Ring of Honor, according to the lawsuit. Klein's complaint alleges breach of implied contract, unpaid royalties, violation of state and federal equal pay acts, and aggressive discharge, discrimination and harassment, and unsafe work environment. Okay. So this is only filed. It has not been expanded outside of that parameter, but it is something that, number one, I'm surprised it took her this long to do this. Now, obviously, court proceedings are very long and strenuous, so we will be following this until the conclusion of this happens. Obviously, she is not the first person who has said this about Ring of Honor. Right. And we will be following it. The one thing is, now, Jay Lethal has been accused of this before with Taylor Hendricks. Okay. This was, in 2013, 2014 with her. Like I guess she was even fired from her job for not sleeping with Jay Lethal. Interesting. They were involved in the same group, and I guess there was an interest, but obviously Taylor Hendricks is a female who can make her own fucking decisions as an adult. Now, Kelly Klein doing this with the sexual harassment, I'm not sure if that's going to coincide, but we'll kind of see what happens with this lawsuit overall. Right. So that's just kind of the news for right now. When we come back, we're going to go to Peanut Gallery, who's going to be doing Bible study on La Parka. Yeah.